Yeah, because I won't talk about the Greek aspects of satire, but I think what's more appropriate to our situation is at least the medieval version of satire and humor. And with that one, what I'm referring to is, I guess, the idea of a king or a noble and them having a fool that's in the court. And the interesting thing is that whether you have the divine right of kings or anything like that, if a fellow noble or like a person of the court were to criticize the king, they'd immediately get beheaded because like their word had weight. If you distrusted the king, like people would take that as an affront, especially the king, and you'd lose your head, as the Queen of Hearts would say in Alice in Wonderland. But the fool. Now, the fool, whilst is a lower person, they uh, because they had humor, they had incredible insight. But because they had such low status, they could basically make fun of the king. They could make fun of anyone in the court, and everyone would laugh. But they knew that they weren't being taken seriously, or they were just exaggerating. So people could, in this humor, like basically listen to it but not really take it seriously. And it's really the reason why we get the phrase, oh, it's so funny, it's true. And really, if there isn't a kernel of truth in this sort of satirical humor, then people just wouldn't find it funny.
Mm.
Basically, we would get into the zone of absurdism, and if something's absurd and doesn't really make any sense, like sure, it can be shocking, but it just wouldn't be satire. Like there has to be a certain amount of truth to satire. And I think where satire lends itself to an Australian political landscape is, well, I'm getting to stereotypes here, but uh, Australia has a tall poppy syndrome. If there's somebody that's too big for their boots or somebody that is too high status, we're more than ready to grab those poppies and just chop them off by the roots. Because, in Australian society, you don't want people to be too full of themselves. And we're more willing to make fun of someone if they are too full of themselves. And this is where Never Go Full ScoMo and Grand Theft Liberal come into it, is that the Conservative Party here in Australia for the last 9 years have been getting full of themselves. There's been a raft corruption federally, and Scott Morrison, or ScoMo as he likes to call himself, has basically been the epitome of it for the last 3 years, where it's become incredibly obvious to everyone that looks at politics. And yeah, like I think this is where the layers come in that you were talking about before, is that our lyrics, that because it's a catchy tune, because it's because we try to give the like immense depth to our lyrics, that I reckon because you listen to it again and again and again, you'll actually learn a new thing about the lyrics that you didn't notice before. And I'll give people an example, and I hope you can hear this when you listen back to Never Go Full ScoMo, is I've gotten a lot of people that, at least the lines that I've personally contributed to it, is people have liked lines like, oh, he's down in the polls and kicking own goals. Like, obviously, that's a good rhyme, and people have praised us for that one that I've contributed. But the one that I haven't gotten yet, that I'm immensely proud of, that is a bit of a deeper one, is um, the one where I say that ScoMo's jetting off to Hawaii, no regretting handshakes, this shit is kawaii. Now, the thing is, Hawaii, obviously, it's got the Japan influence, but kawaii is obviously the Japanese word for cute. But the thing is, if you elongate kawaii, that's actually scary. So what I'm actually saying is, no regretting handshakes, this shit is scary. but because it's got that rhyming scheme, it fits in, and I'm immensely proud of that line. And nobody's picked me up yet, but I'm hoping if you listen to it long enough, and when we've gotten people asking for lyrics, I'm hoping, oh, that's not cute that he's referring to. It's scary. That's cool. And I know that there's plenty of lines like that for you, and, you know, layers, layers.